Thank you for listening to BizPod with me, Paul.
And me, Rachel.
Our weekly business English podcast where we talk about the news, social media, and hot topics from a business point of view. You'll get a podcast and links to the articles we discuss. This way you can share your thoughts too. Join us as we discuss what's on our minds this week.
Paul, let's talk about the US election.
Well, I suppose it can't have escaped anyone's attention that there is a presidential election looming, isn't there, in America?
Yeah, it's just been Super Tuesday.
Okay, so what is Super Tuesday?
No idea. You tell me.
Super Tuesday, I think it's basically the day when the majority of the different states in America are voting in the primary elections.
Yeah.
I don't know which states it is, but there's a lot of them.
I think it was about 15 or something, wasn't there?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I think it's the day that sort of makes or breaks your campaign for being a president.
No, not your campaign for being president. Your campaign for being the nominee.
Ah, yeah, okay.
Ha-ha.
Yeah. So how many people were running for the Republican nomination?
I think, was it 15? No, 15 originally, 9 Republicans, 4 Democrats, and 2 independents.
Okay. But who's going to win the nomination for the Republican?
Well, who do you
candidacy?
think? There's only Donald Trump left because Nikki Haley's dropped out because she didn't win hardly anything, did she?
So it's going to be Donald Trump versus Joe Biden.
Yeah, rematch. Boxing match, round 2. Ding, ding.
Yeah. So who's going to win?
Well, who do you think?
I don't know. Who do you think?
I don't like either of them because I think one is an idiot and the other one is not compos mentis.
Okay. So why is it important then? Why are we talking about the American presidential election? What, we don't like the people. Does it really matter to you and me, to people in general?
Well, yeah, it does because it affects global policy, doesn't it? It affects, NATO helping out with the war in Ukraine. It shapes public policy globally. You need America to be a strong force. And I don't think either of them are strong forces. One of them is a bit of a flip-flop, doesn't he? Donald Trump, he says one thing, and if he doesn't like you, he says another thing.
No, I'd say he's an egomaniac.
Oh, okay, egomaniac. Okay, don't mince your words there, Paul.
Oh,
Hope
he
you
is,
never
isn't
meet him in person. And Joe Biden, he spent so many years trying to be the president, and then when he finally gets there, he's just too old.
Yeah.
And I really don't think he's got a grip on what's
Reality.
going. Yeah, reality. Okay, yeah.
So why do you think then in America that the only 2 possible candidates for the presidency, which is quite an important job, why are they both really, really old men, do you think?
Well, it could be to do with money. You've got to be rich to run a campaign. I mean, Donald Trump, I wouldn't say is a politician. He was a businessman.
Yeah.
It's in America, it's if you've got the money, then you run the campaign.
Okay.
And just because you've got the money doesn't mean that you're the best person. But, it takes a lot of money. You've got to raise a lot of money. And I don't think the ordinary Joe in the street
could raise the money.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you think Donald Trump has so much sort of support with a certain group of people then?
Well, that's the conundrum, isn't it? Because he seems to reflect everything that the ordinary American cannot have. But the more he gets prosecuted, the more he gets taken down for doing the wrong thing, the more he gets found guilty, the more they seem to love him. But yet they represent, the poorest of society are voting for this guy who presents himself as an elitist. It's an oxymoron. It doesn't go. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, it's an interesting oxymoron, as you said. It's kind of like maybe, I don't know, you always hear about this thing called the American dream, where everyone believes that one day they will be rich and wealthy. And perhaps they believe that with Donald Trump as a president, they have a better opportunity to become rich and wealthy. Although I don't think the reality is there. That, it is a dream, but the word dream tells you a lot. It's something that may happen to a very, very small number of people, but it's a dream for most people. It's not reality.
So are you telling the Americans they need to get real? You're not going to get rich.
Yeah. I don't really understand what the American dream is. Not being an American, I don't understand American culture. Mm-hmm. But the American dream, perhaps 100 years ago, America was this land of opportunity. And it probably was, a place where people could go and there would be more opportunities for them there than they were in their home countries. And so many people went there and became really, really, really successful. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Not everyone became really, really, uber wealthy successful, but if you imagine that you kind of went from, say, working class European family to middle class America, that's success for a lot of people.
I think the main difference is Americans love a winner, and British people, we love the underdog. We always cheer for the one who's not winning.
Okay.
And so we can't understand why people
vote for Donald Trump. Do you think that's true, though? Do we always cheer for the underdog? I mean, think about British politics. I mean, there's going to be a general election in the UK soon, and you have Labour, you have Keir Starmer, who's the leader of Labour.
Yeah, but he's Sir Keir Starmer. How can you be representing the people when you're a Sir? That doesn't work.
So he's not an underdog in your sense, then?
No, he just, I don't know.
So then also the alternative to Keir Starmer would be Rishi Sunak, current Prime Minister.
Billionaire.
And leader, I don't think he's a billionaire, but he's certainly a millionaire, but a leader of the Conservatives. Which one's the underdog?
But I think we've got to such a dire situation with British politics that people don't like either of them.
Okay. Similar to America, where we don't really like Donald Trump and we don't really like Biden either.
No. But the thing is, the outcome of the US presidential election and the outcome of the British prime ministership, although not so much so, is going to shape the global economic situation, global security, economic policy, businesses.
Yeah. Yeah, the American, because America's such a big economy, the decisions that they make over there do have more of an impact than decisions made in Europe, for example, in the UK and things like that.
Over there, across the pond.
Yeah. What was it they used to say there? Over here, and during the Second World War, there was a saying about American GIs.
I have no idea. You're going to have to do a quick Google on that one.
I'll Google that one later, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, dear.
What about that? There is also going to be a presidential election this year in Russia. Who do you think is going to win?
I want to stay alive, so I'm staying out of this conversation.
Well, obviously, Putin's going to win. It's obvious he's going to win. Yeah.
If you value your life. So, moving on. What do you think about Biden and Donald Trump? I mean, looking back, so Biden has already been the president. Donald Trump was president prior to that. Do you think they have a good legacy so far? Have they changed America for the better? I mean, the one thing I said to you the other day was, if Donald Trump gets in, at least you know it's not going to be boring.
Okay, true. It won't be boring, for at least 4 years. I mean, I don't know. Have either of them changed America or the world for the better? My answer to that would be no, neither of them have. But I think America's influence is not as strong or as wide-ranging as it used to be. There are too many other countries that are, as strong or as influential. China, for example,
I think things are changing. Things are shifting. The old order, the old guard,
Yeah.
It's changing.
It's changing, yeah. China's economy is expected to at least reach the same as America's, if not become larger. And that will obviously have a bearing on when America says something, what effect that has for the rest of the world. Whereas, it will also increase China's power, in a sense.
I think everybody just needs to calm down and get along with each other. That would just be nicer. Things post-COVID to me globally seem very, very volatile. And the problem with Donald Trump is, yes, he may come out and call a spade, which needs to be done sometimes, but he also needs to dial down the rhetoric, because I think he's going to cause more problems than they're worth. And I'm going to bet my 50p here.
Okay.
If he does get in, he won't last the 4 years.
Okay.
That's my 50p bet.
He won't last the 4 years.
No.
I would kind of agree with you. That's a very good probability, but it's going to take a lot to bring somebody like Donald Trump down if he is the president. He's not going to go voluntarily. He's not going to just say, yeah, I did wrong, or I'm going to resign. He's going to be forced out, and they will have to drag him from the building, kicking and screaming, because he's not going to go voluntarily.
Yeah, and I mean, if anybody wants to hear a really good podcast, I'm going to go back to it again. The leading podcast had an episode with Scaramucci, who was Donald Trump's
communication manager or something like that.
And he's absolutely scathing. He is so anti-Trump now. You've got to listen to it. It will make you laugh.
Yeah. Yeah. I also think, the way politics has changed, and I think it's a big change from when we were much younger, is it's become very divisive. Politicians don't seem to want to work together to solve problems. They want to divide opinion.
Division!
Yeah, and they want to polarize the population, so it's either our way or your way, and there's no middle ground.
I think it was always like that. I think the problem is, no, not the problem, the reality is, you only get interested in politics as you get older. And then it's too late to do anything. I mean, I would love to go back, and I would stand. I'd love to be a speechwriter or somebody behind the scenes, be a Sam Seaborn or a Toby.
Yeah.
I'm quoting West Wing here. If you know the communications people in we're big West Wing fans. But I think, when you get to our age, when you're finally interested in it and you see the impacts on your life personally, on your tax, on your, your bills you pay,
the cost of living,
your pay rises at work with strikes and things. Yeah. It's all too late. They should be teaching it in schools.
Okay, they should be teaching it in schools. But I also think that politicians tend to think more of themselves and think they can do more than they actually can do. There's been a very recent discussion in British politics about building houses. And I can't remember the exact figures, but some member of the government was on a talk show talking about, we have built 125,000 new homes in the past year. Whereas the reality is, the government is not in the business of building houses and homes. So I don't understand why they say things like that. And I don't understand why people who are interviewing them allow them to get away with making those kind of statements. Because the government hasn't built any homes. That's not what the government does. The government just should basically be in the business of getting out of the way and creating opportunities for people to build homes, businesses to build homes. The government doesn't build homes. The government doesn't fund home building.
Well, that's quite interesting, because I had a group class today on the infrastructure.
Okay.
And we were talking about infrastructure, and it was all came down to a definition that infrastructure is something that makes a country, and it makes a country work.
Okay, yeah.
And government facilities, the governmental sector was there. Is it to facilitate? Is it to remove blocks? Is it to, but you need the governmental sector to help with the emergency services sector, to help with the financial sector, to help with the construction, the agriculture. It all comes down to policy, doesn't it?
Yeah. So, I believe government is part of infrastructure. And it's needed. The government has to sort of set the regulations on where you can build new homes, how you can build new homes, how many homes, there need to be regulations and rules to follow. But the government doesn't build homes.
Do the actual work.
They don't. No. They just create an opportunity for businesses to go and build homes. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit like we're big West Wing fans. And I love in West Wing when you watch episode of West Wings and they talk about how many jobs have been created, and they talk about we have created 2 million new jobs in the past year, and I think, well, no, you haven't. You haven't created any jobs. Businesses have created jobs. The government doesn't create jobs. The government facilitates or should create the opportunities for businesses to do things.
Yeah, makes it conducive for growth.
Yeah. If businesses grow and that leads to more jobs, then it's the business success. It's nothing to do with the government.
But then you're talking about the economy.
Yeah.
I mean, we love West Wing. We really love West Wing. We watch it every year, don't we? We start beginning in January and we finish about September time, don't we? And then we start again.
Yeah, we start again, yeah.
And one thing that gets me is it's like 35, 40 years old now.
It's quite old.
And they are still talking about the same problems that you see in the news today.
Yeah. That is very interesting. If you watch really old episodes of West Wing, like the first and the second season, the political issues they're talking about, they're still talking about them today. The same issues today.
It's quite shocking.
Yeah. It is shocking that, what has our government done for the past 25, 30 years then, if they can't solve problems?
Well, the British government, I think a lot in the British government these days, they're just out for themselves. They're at the moment, they're deciding some laws around landlords and tenancies and Govey, Michael Gove.
Yeah.
Listeners won't get the Govey. There is a comedy podcast we listen to, BBC Comedy, the News Quiz, and they always do. Or no, it's the guy who does the impressions.
Yeah,
I can't remember. I'll find the name of it.
Govey.
Yeah, and they say it's Govey here, and they do sort of caricatures of him. Anyway, Michael Gove is the levelling up. Housing minister, or was levelling up, now housing. Anyway, and he basically, you can't trust him, anything he says.
No, you can't trust him.
He will lie till he's blue in the face. But he was trying to put forward some legislation that would make it harder for landlords to evict tenants without any reason in order to raise the rent and re-rent the property out. And all the politicians in the Houses of Parliament have been trying to water down this policy. And guess why?
Because they're all landlords. Yeah. They're all property owners.
They're all out for their own money.
Yeah. They're all out for themselves. I mean, I think if politicians really wanted to solve problems, they could. And let's talk about British politics again. The NHS. The NHS has been in need of reforming.
Dire straits.
For decades. But the only thing that any government or any politicians will do is just give the NHS more money. Nobody will actually stand up and say, the system that was created 50 years ago doesn't work in today's world. It worked 50 years ago, 60 years ago when it was created. But now the system doesn't work because the world has changed so much that this old system that was created is no longer fit for purpose in the modern world. And we need a new healthcare system.
Yeah, nobody wants to be brave enough to say it because they know it will be the end of their political career, because the British public love the National Health Service.
No, I don't think the British public do love the National Health Service.
Well, not they're falling out of love with them, aren't they? Because they can't get a doctor's appointment, they can't get an NHS dentist, they can't get medical treatment, they can't get their operation.
But that's been for a long time. It wouldn't be the British public. It would be the news websites, the news TV channels, the newspapers. They would be the people who would write the headlines about the British public. They wouldn't really care what the British public think or want. They would just say what they think the British public wants.
There's probably similar situations for people from loads of different, countries all over the world.
Yeah.
You and I are not going to solve them.
No, of course we're not. But it's a good example, I think, of politicians of whichever party you're from. You could solve the NHS problem. It wouldn't be. I'm not saying it would be easy. It would be a difficult thing to do. You could solve it, but you have to be brave.
Do you want the job, Paul?
If someone offered me the job, I would do it because. No, honestly, I would, because first of all, I would never want to be a politician in that sense and be re-elected or elected to an office. So I wouldn't have to worry about what I say or do because there's an election coming. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's the problem with politicians. They can't really say or do major things because they can only think as far in advance as the next election.
They can only see to the end of their nose.
Yeah. Although Donald Trump has got quite a big nose.
An orange nose.
Yeah. He has got quite a big nose. So maybe he can see into the future because his nose is so big.
I don't know. Yeah. I'll tell you what, though. I'll watch that night when the votes come in.
Yeah? Okay. Well, I won't.
Okay, well, I think we better end that there. We have got an article, obviously, where we've taken inspiration for this conversation today. Please go there and read it. And we'll speak again next week.
Okay. Bye. Thanks for listening. We hope you liked our podcast. And please don't forget to subscribe and stay connected with us. Until next time, goodbye.